Hi, everyone. It's Victor here, and it's good to be with you back online. I'm here this morning with Anne-Marie Ellithorpe, and Anne-Marie is our incoming Director of Children and Youth Ministries, and we're really, really excited to introduce her to you this morning. So, good morning, Anne-Marie.
Hi.
I want to let just everybody know how we got to this point. Um, Late last year, our session determined that we really needed to add someone who would be able to work more intentionally and more intensively with our children, youth, and our families, because ministry with children and youth is one of our stated priorities. And I think ministry with our children, youth, and their families is really critical for our church's health and our church's future. So our session decided to search for a person for this role. And so a committee was formed, and our committee looked at a number of different applications, and then we were happy to unanimously recommend Anne-Marie to be our Director of Children and Youth Ministries. Anne-Marie has an extensive background in working with children and youth and their families. And not only does she have a background in teaching, she also has advanced degrees in theology, including a doctorate in practical theology with a focus on friendship. So we're really, really excited about what all that can mean for RPC as we go forward with working with our children, youth, and their families. Now, it's kind of a weird and perhaps a little awkward introduction to do this online over Facebook or YouTube or whatever way that you may be watching this. It would be much more preferable, of course, to have Anne-Marie come to church and introduce her to everybody in person, but we know that this is the context in which we're living. And I think it's really, really important that we are actually making sure that we are continuing with our position at this time, because this is a time where, because we're separated by this distance and the social distancing, that families and their children can feel maybe disconnected from the church community. And I think it's really incredibly important, even more so than usual, that we actually have somebody in place to connect with our children and youth and their families with some intentionality, with some experience, and with some goals in mind, with an outcome in mind. And so I think it's even more necessary that at a time like this, when we can't meet in person, that we've got Anne-Marie coming on board to direct and lead our programs for our children, youth, and their families. So we're really delighted to be able to, again, introduce Anne-Marie to all of us this morning. And so without further ado, I want to ask Anne-Marie to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you, Victor. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I was born in New Zealand, grew up in New Zealand. I was a school teacher there and an educational consultant. Worked in various forms of leadership from my teenage years. I have subsequently moved to Vancouver, Canada in 2002 to study at Regent College. I then married an American, moved to Singapore, lived in there for a year and a half. Our daughter was born there a little over 14 years ago. Moved back to the States when she was 5 months old. And then some years ago, we moved back here to Vancouver for my husband to study here. And along the way, I started working, well, I finished my degree from Regent Long Distance, and then I started working on a PhD in practical theology through the University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia. And as Victor mentioned, that ended up being focused on friendship and yeah, I think it's a friendship is a relationship that we are currently really sensing a need for, and sensing also maybe a need to think about more broadly than we have in the past with the social distancing that we're now needing to practice. I currently am a research associate at Vancouver School of Theology, and I'm also a mentor at Regent College for their preaching class currently. I've actually enjoyed working with technology along the way. As a teacher back in 1997, I had the opportunity to set up an IT centre for the school that I worked at, and to support some of the older teachers in getting over their computer anxiety and working with technology. So this is another unique experience to help again support. You know, I got my parents in New Zealand who are now in their 80s the other day. We got them onto Zoom. We've Skyped with them before, but we found there's some advantages to this Zoom technology, and so it's going to be really interesting to see over the coming weeks and months potentially how we can build community through this technology, that we can be together although apart.
That's great, Anne-Marie. Thank you for that. Yeah, I agree that technology really gives us some advantages. We'll go right into the living rooms or family rooms.
Yes.
Sometimes the kitchens of the people that we're contacting with and connecting with. You've done a lot of work with children and youth and their families in your background, different churches, for example. Can you point out any highlights for you during that time, and things that you maybe enjoyed the most, that have stayed with you throughout the years in terms of your experience working with children and youth and their families?
You know, that is such a hard question to answer, Victor, because my involvement has been quite diverse. As a teacher, as a pioneer of a group called Kids Unlimited, a kind of a discipleship and outreach group with children and young people, as a involvement with an organization, a ministry of the Presbyterian Church in California that we were part of, Mothers Together, and then through friendships there, pioneering a family small group. So maybe just to talk briefly about that, it was kind of fascinating. I was actually pioneered this along initially with the spouse of the person who was the youth pastor at the time. His title later became pastor of intergenerational ministries. But he was out so many nights a week, and he had 2 young children similar age to mine. And so his wife was just saying to me, really it doesn't work for us to be part of a small group because we have these little ones. And so what we decided was to try out something where we met over dinner on Sunday evening. It wasn't another night out. We initially focused it on the children. So that went for maybe 6 months or so, and it was kind of ironic because as I had conversations with folk, it seemed people were thinking, this was great, but it's not quite what we were hoping for. Maybe we should move on. And sometimes when you talk with people one-on-one, you expect to get their most honest feedback, and I think it was their honest feedback. But when we met together as a group one last time and talked about it as a group, what we realized was actually these parents were really hungry for connection with each other. So this group we'd initially started with a focus on the children. We decided rather than disbanding, let's just expand the way that we think about it and the way that we organize it. And again, it was being creative with the needs of the group at the time. So what we did is that we decided that we'll meet once a month in one family's home that was on the larger side, all together. Everybody will have a babysitter come, and she can help with the little ones, but they're willing to be with us. We're not separate. And then 2 weeks later, we will meet as couples, as adults, and we'll have 1 or 2 babysitters with the children in another home. So then it was kind of like the children's small group and the adult small group. And then once a month, the mums got together for brunch before church on Sunday. And once a month, the dads got together And that was a bit more of a challenge to find a time that really worked for them. But it was actually wonderful to see how that, as we were in dialogue with each other, we could figure out a way how to support one another in the journey of being families together. So that's just one story.
This sounds so awesome. So awesome. It must have been wonderful to experience that journey together, and certainly hope that something in a similar vein might be possible going forward for us here at Richmond. So touching base to about Richmond, you're going to start next week with us. So what are you looking most forward to? What do you anticipate as being some challenges as you begin your position as the Director of Children and Youth with us here at Richmond Presbyterian?
Oh, again, you're asking some pretty big questions there. Let me see. What am I most looking forward to? I'm just really looking forward to getting to know the community and to seeing how I can contribute to growing the community in different ways. I really see ministry as being something that's collaborative. So I really see my role as coming alongside, helping, supporting, empowering, encouraging, mentoring, all those kind of things. And I really don't have a pre-agenda other than helping us all to grow in our relationships with God, with ourselves, with each other, and in our care for creation. The sort of four-way, multidimensional relationality that I believe we're created for. Mm-hmm. The challenges, of course, as you mentioned, it's a really unusual time to be starting a ministry. But I think, as you say, it's a really important time as well to be coming alongside and supporting families, supporting youth, supporting children in this time of relative isolation. And so I'm assuming that I'm going to get to know people in quite a different way, in a sense, than I would be if we were starting in a more conventional way. And I'm hoping that there's actually some advantages and some benefits, just despite the challenges.
That's great. Anne-Marie, I want to thank you for your time with us this morning. I know this is just a brief glimpse into who you are and what this relationship will grow to be. But it was really important for us to introduce you to our community who are going to be watching this online, just to get a flavor of who you are and what we can expect going forward together. So we're delighted. We're grateful that you're joining our staff, and we look forward to a fruitful ministry with you together. We wish you and your family health and peace and God's care, and we look forward to working with you very, very shortly.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it also.
Take care. God bless.
Okay.
All right. And just to the rest of you, remember, join us for worship Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, either through Facebook or through YouTube. And then we're also having a virtual fellowship, Munch and Mingle, at 11 o'clock through a Zoom call. And you'll all be getting links to that Zoom call. So we look forward to sharing worship and fellowship with you on Sunday morning. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.